A tornado carried a dog away until something surprising occurred. The big tornado in Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, caused a lot of damage. Houses got wrecked and people died. Before the tornado came, experts at the Storm Prediction Center watched the storm forming. They warned everyone that strong winds, as powerful as EF2, were coming. Some people listened to the warning, but most didn't realize how bad it would be. The tornado went through the towns, destroying everything in its path. Sadly, 65 people died, and more than 1,500 were seriously hurt. This huge and powerful storm was part of a group of storms that hit 8 states over 3 days. On April 27, 2011, the tornado hit North Smithfield in Birmingham, Alabama. It damaged hundreds of homes and changed the lives of many local families forever. One family decided to hide in the garage when the big storm started. They all stayed close together, including their dog, Mason. But when the storm got worse, they hurried back inside the house without noticing if Mason had come with them. When the storm finally stopped, they looked everywhere in the garage for their beloved dog, but he was nowhere to be found. They had to leave their damaged house while it got fixed, and they didn't know where Mason had gone. Mason's owners felt really sad and worried. They thought he might not have survived the storm, but something inside them made them think he was still out there somewhere. For many days after the storm, they searched the area for Mason. After a long time with no sign of their dog, they started to lose hope and accepted that they might never see him again. But when the tornado passed, animal shelters and rescue groups went out to look for lost pets. They really wanted to bring them back to their families. There were about 1,800 animals that had no home and were away from their families. People wondered if Mason was one of those animals, and many thought their pets were gone forever. Mason's family had lost all hope that Mason would be found. If he had survived the terrifying ordeal, the family feared that he had been adopted by another family. The animal rescue shelters managed to reunite about 1/3 of the animals with their families, but if no one came forward to claim the animal after about 10 days, the rescue groups had to put the surviving animals up for adoption. The many volunteers at the rescue shelters knew that some pet owners had been injured by the storm. They extended the hold date of the animals for as long as possible. In many cases, the fees to reclaim the pets were also compassionately waived. We found a lot of animals with broken feet and broken tails, as we lost a few due to internal injuries, Jennifer Bidwell of the Walker County Animal Shelter said. But where was Mason? After several weeks, many of the pets were transferred to the Greater Birmingham Humane Society. Candy Horsley, the manager at Coleman City Animal Shelter, said she received an estimated 400 animals. We have 24 usable kennels in our shelter and 20 foster homes for 107 animals, Horsley said. We are packed. Local Metro Animal Control also has 770, but still, little Mason remained missing. In the devastating aftermath of the historic storm, many animal control groups took to Facebook in an attempt to reunite pets with their owners. The Animals Lost and Found from the Tornadoes in Alabama on 27th April page was launched. Volunteers knew that the power of social media could greatly aid their heroic efforts. In total, 100 animals were reunited with their owners through the Facebook page, but courageous Mason had other plans. His family was not prepared for what would soon be uncovered. Almost a month after the tornado, Mason was still missing. His exasperated family was considering giving up their determined search for their pet. While many would have eventually given up, little Mason was considered a family member. The search continued, and Mason's family was soon in for a big surprise. 3 weeks after the tornado, Mason's family decided to go through the wreckage of their home one more time. They wanted to sift through the rubble and debris just one last time. Amidst the bricks and scraps, they spotted an unbelievable sight on their porch. Mason's family was incredibly surprised when they found him sitting on their porch among the broken things, waiting for them to rescue him. His little tail was wagging like crazy with happiness and relief as they finally reunited. They couldn't believe what Mason had gone through while they were apart. When they looked at him closely, they realized how much he had suffered. As soon as Mason saw his family, he limped towards them, and his owners couldn't stop crying because they were so relieved and happy. But seeing Mason also made them sad because they couldn't believe he had survived and found his way back home. When they checked him closely, they realized Mason had been through a lot in the past month. His legs were broken, and he was very skinny, but he still had a strong spirit. They were amazed that he had made it. It turned out that when the family went back into their house to escape the tornado, Mason got caught in the storm and carried away by the strong winds. Most people and animals wouldn't have survived that, but Mason was tough. Even with his front legs badly hurt, he crawled through the wreckage to get back home. Mason was very thirsty, and his fur was dirty and messy. People wondered how his brave spirit had helped him through all of this, but Mason still needed a lot of medical help. The worst part was that the family didn't have a home, and they didn't have the money to take care of Mason's injuries. The family had to think of a solution to their predicament fast. In their dire circumstances, the family made a difficult decision. They made a call to the Birmingham Jefferson County Animal Control Center. They didn't want to be separated from Mason, but it was the best decision for the well-being of their pet. They had no money to pay for the medical care that Mason needed. Mason's owners didn't know it then, but this was just the start of a big journey for Mason and themselves. The people at the animal control shelter were amazed by Mason's survival story. Phil Doster, who helps at the shelter, said it was really unusual for an animal to come back home after all that time, especially in Mason's condition. Mason's front legs were badly hurt and he was very skinny, but what amazed everyone was that Mason didn't seem to be in pain. He was just happy to be back home. Even though his family didn't want to give him up, they thought it was the best thing for Mason. So, Phil Doster had an idea. He asked a nearby animal clinic called Vulcan Park Animal Care Clinic if they could help Mason. When the clinic heard how tough Mason was, they offered to take x-rays right away. But there was someone else who was deeply moved by Mason's story. Dr. William D. Lamb, the head vet at the clinic, said he would do the surgery to help Mason and he wouldn't charge anything for it. Mason was very thirsty, very skinny, and only weighed half of what he should, said Dr. Lamb. Dr. Lamb asked 2 bone doctors to help fix Mason's broken legs. Mason had a long and tough surgery that lasted for 3.5 hours. The caring doctors put 2 metal plates and 17 pins in his hurt legs. Usually, this kind of surgery would cost a lot of money, but the clinic didn't charge anything to help the brave dog. Mason had to stay at the clinic for 5 weeks to make sure he got better. Surprisingly, Dr. Lamb didn't charge anything for all the services the clinic provided. Once again, Mason's amazing story touched someone else's heart who wanted to help. After Mason's surgery, he started eating and looked healthier. Dr. Lamb said, "He looks much better now. If everything goes well and he heals like he should, we believe he will be completely better in 3 or 4 months, and no one will be able to tell he went through this." Chuck Eager, the person in charge at the clinic where Mason was getting better, became really close to the dog. Mason spent 4 months getting better before the clinic could find him a new and forever home. While Mason was at the clinic, Chuck Eager grew very fond of him. He said, "I've seen dogs go through really tough times, but I've never seen one that was hurt so badly yet still stay happy and kind." Mason's family came to see him often at the clinic. They had a little girl, and Mason was like her special dog. When they saw each other, they both got really excited. Mason would wiggle his whole body with happiness when he saw her. She was thrilled to see him and sad when they had to leave. Mason's amazing spirit and his story of overcoming big challenges earned him a special nickname, Mason the Brave Tornado Dog. Chuck Eager gave him this nickname and even made a Facebook page just for Mason. Mason became really famous with over 8,000 people following him and a lot of people in the media talking about him. His story was on national TV and in People magazine. Even though he got better after the tornado, he still gets scared when he hears loud noises because of what happened in the storm. Many people all around the world were moved by Mason's story. They liked it so much that it was even in a special book called People Amazing Pets that was sold in stores and loved by dog lovers. They wrote about Mason's tough journey under the title Tougher Than a Tornado. Mason shows how brave and strong a dog's spirit can be. He deserves the title of man's greatest companion for sure.